everyone. This is Princess Farron, and before I start, I just want to ask if anyone has already read the New World Underneath chapters. Oh my god. Oh my god, the lore, the revelations, and I can hardly believe that the theory part of this video actually ties so beautiful with it. So let's start. On this video, I would like to talk about the most recent event featuring the five lads of love and deep space. I'm talking about tomorrow's Catch 22. I know it's a bit overdue, but I have a few thoughts about it I would like to express, as well as talking about the bits of lore we can squeeze out of the event, and of course, a bit of a crazy theory, which I'll save for the last. First things first, I really enjoyed tomorrow's Catch 22 event and its memories. Even though the pitch implied some sort of BDSM, the stories were actually written in an engaging way, while also adding a sprinkle of lore. Not to forget that we once again got choices in the memorias, in the dates. However, they differ from what we were used to get, because for the first time, the various actions and choices result in alternate endings. So, could this mean that the same will happen in the future, further along in the main story? And by this, I mean that at some point in the story, our choices will actually lead to different paths for the five love interests we have thus far. Regardless, I can say that story wise, it was my favorite event so far, if we don't take into account the myth. Now, let's get into the stories and the lore we can gather from them. So, in the event, it was mentioned that a special attraction would be taking place in the theme park, and that's why the MC decided to invite each of the love interests to join. In line with this, the five cards presented us with a sort of a parallel universe, a parallel reality where the MC and the five lads have similar roles to the ones they have in the real universe. Except for the fact that the five of them are predators, the equivalent to wanderers in the normal reality. For example, Raphael is a secluded leader of the secret organization, the Flowing Fire, and we know in our reality, Raphael is actually pursuing those who exploited Lemurians, besides also having dealings with shady characters in the nest, all the while maintaining his reserved attitude towards the outside world. And he was the leader of the Lemurians. He was the sea god, after all. Silas is a resourceful mafia boss guy with many enemies, among them being Ever, who even tried to kill him. And he has a revenge. He blew up um, one of their research facilities, pretty similar to the current universe, where we know Anakinas has got control of over one of Ever's research centers. And let's not forget that Luke and Kieran suffer greatly at the hands of Ever, so of course their boss is not happy about it either. As for Caleb, he is once more in a position of power, this time as a councilman instead of the leader, the commander of the Far Space Fleet. However, what I would like to emphasize are the clues regarding each one of the love interests' roles in relation to Ever, and how that actually takes place in our current real universe. I believe that that connection is most evident in two of the stories I have yet to mention, Zane and Xavier's too. So let's start off by going through our Starboy story. MC is an enforcer tasked with keeping the peace and the predators, which would be the wanderers in our reality, at bay, alongside her subordinate, Xavier, similar to our reality where they both work in the Hunters Association. The most interesting aspect of this story is the relation between Xavier's family and Ever. Xavier reveals he's from Philos, a powerful conglomerate that is a formidable rival to Ever. Philos is an ancient, enigmatic family enterprise that moved their base of operations to Lincoln several decades ago. And Xavier is their heir. As the heir to such an influential family and conglomerate, he was even kidnapped when he was on his way to a piano lesson. At a certain point, Xavier admits that once he became a predator, his family tried to hide him away. All this really mirrors what happened in, I'm gonna say real universe, I'm gonna say it our universe. For example, as Xavier was opposed to the royal family's approach to sustaining the life of the planet Philos. And that was one of the reasons why he was always on missions outside the planet. And then there's that very intriguing details about the red color around Xavier's neck. That red color was developed by Ever, which implies that either he or his family had ties to Ever. Even though I had initially thought that maybe Xavier had made a deal with Ever in order to find a way to save MC, another possibility is that maybe his family might have ordered that color from Ever so that Xavier would no longer defy them because of the MC, as a way to control him. Pretty much as what they did by hiding him away in this alternate universe. That is actually plausible because in this parallel universe, Philos and Ever are business and political rivals. And Xavier has every reason to destroy Ever. So maybe this reflects that in our reality, Philos and Ever are in cahoots. And that's why Xavier got that red color. To support this possibility, I'd like to remember that while on a phone call with Xavier, MC wonders if Philo may one day turn into another Ever. Which makes perfect sense, given that the rulers of Philos approved the sacrifice of MC's heart to sustain the planet Philos. Another curious detail is Xavier's codename as a predator, Hermit, which refers to a person who lives in solitude, usually due to religious reasons, a recluse. And then we also have the tarot meaning. The Hermit's card's underlying concept revolves around spiritual awakening and listening to your inner voice. It invites us to retreat into our private world and experience introspection and self reflection so that we can achieve wisdom and illumination, which is quite fitting with our glowing little star Xavier. Yes, because in this event, it's clearly stated for the first time that Xavier actually glows. I just had to mention this because it's simply adorable. So, before we let our sleepy star enjoy his rest, I would like to point out something that I also found very curious. Xavier's mention of a councilman who held a high ranking position at Ever. I just couldn't help but wonder if he was referring to Caleb. What do you all think? Pretty accurate, I would say. Now, let's pay a visit to our resident doctor, shall we? In this event, Zane is the warden of the Predator prison, having previously worked as a veterinarian and a dentist, which is funny, as he never takes good care of his teeth in the real universe despite being a doctor. Um, in this alternate universe, Zane's research was intended to develop an antidote for the frenzy enhancer. However, Ever was able to actually steal part of that research. They knew Zane was onto something and wanted that knowledge. And we know very well that in the real universe, Xander Sciences, that was a branch of Ever, did their best they could to recruit him, but he ended up refusing. Besides, in Zane's story branch, Thorns Under the Moon, and in the world underneath, we can see how Zane and Carter's paths diverge, despite the latter's attempts to persuade Zane into collaborating with him. Aside from that, in this AU, Zane was also trying to track down the origin of the predator outbreak. And as Ever stole Zane's research to actually develop the frenzy enhancer, that led me to believe that maybe in our reality, Ever also managed to somehow get access to part of his research, or will try to do so, maybe through his mentor, Dr. Noah, who is quite distant and sort of alone in the Arctic doing his research. This last bit is just speculation, of course, but if we take into account all the symmetries between both universes, Ever going after the investigation that both Thane and Dr. Noah developed would definitely make a lot of sense. Do you agree? Now, if you're ready, for the crazier part, that actually now makes even more sense, I would like to share with you a theory. So I came up with it because after I played the several chapters of tomorrow's Catch 22 event, my mind kept going back to a game that I had once played, Dreamfall, The Longest Journey, and Dreamfall Chapters. Allow me to explain. I think it's possible that Ever is actually controlling the dreams that the MC and the five love interests experienced in the simulation promoted by the theme park. Maybe the event was actually created by Ever so they can make people dream and then control or at least monitor what's happening in said dreams. But why do I think this might be the case? Well, for one, the newest abyssal chaos through which we realize that Ever has technology that allows them to save the brainwaves, even if people had long passed away. Their goal? Creating immortality, or something as close to it as possible. However, the abyssal chaos was not the only reason why I thought of this theory. I'd like to bring up, once again, Zane's myth, the Tower of Secrets, because it's mentioned that when the MC sees a field of jasmines, she has entered an illusion created by words alone. This clearly alludes to the possibility of creating imaginary worlds. And let's not forget Dawnbreaker Zane. Maybe the bleak reality he lives in actually exists, but in a similar dreamscape. And this is where this possibility resonates with the game I mentioned before, Dreamfall, The Longest Journey, and Dreamfall Chapters, developed by the Norwegian company Funcom and then later on Red Thread Games after the main developer left the first company. Basically, this game tells the story of Zoe Castillo, a 20-year-old who lies in a coma, and recounts the events that left her in that state. Her account concerns Project Alkira, through which inventors developed a lucid dream inducing technology, a dreamer console that can be covertly used for mass brainwashing and even murder. Faith, whom they used to test a part of their DreamNet technology, after receiving a fatal overdose of Morpheus, managed to transfer her consciousness to the DreamNet mainframe, disrupting the worldwide infrastructure with massive amounts of white noise. I don't know if you agree with me, but all this reminds me so much of the way Ever proceeds. They are insidious and they aren't concerned about who may suffer as long as they reach their goals. And as we have discussed previously, they are definitely experimenting with consciousness transfer. So, will they go as far as also brainwashing people? It's a plausible course of action since they don't regret turning human beings into monsters, into wanderers, and killing some of those who don't fulfill Ever's goals. By the end of Homecoming Wing story branch, Ever states the intention to soon make a grand revelation to the world, so we can only speculate about what that might be. Another detail about Dreamfall chapters that also brought to mind Lad's loves in Deepspace was the fact that at a certain point, the main character Zoe discovers a vortex of stolen dreams, which reminds me of the deep space tunnel itself. We kind of went a little bit down the rabbit hole with this one, didn't we? Anyway, I honestly believe these games have some points in common story wise, especially since there's a strong focus on technology, power, and alternate universe or realities. So, if you have any thoughts about the sprinkles of lore we got on the Tomorrow's Catch 22 banner, or regarding this theory that Ever may be actually controlling these simulation events, do share them. I'd love to know your ideas and crazy takes on it, especially after the new chapters of World Underneath. I gotta make a video about it. I will soon enough. Um, Also, if you like this video and don't mind when I put the Mad Hatter hat on to come up with such ideas, hit the like button and subscribe. This is Princess Farron signing out. Take care and good gaming. Bye bye.